These teachings are based off of Tantra. I'm sure all of you know that. You know that coming from the Tantric tradition. And Tantra is really feminine positive. So I'd like to share some principles that have really come into my own awareness in the past year and have been solidifying more and more. And so the more sisters that come to embody these principles of living and ways of being, feminine is all about being, then the more powerful we become. So talking about power, Shakti. Shakti is power. That's the actual translation, which is really interesting for those of us who grew up in the West without knowing even the word Shakti, that the feminine was always kind of seen as, it's even been called the weaker sex. So this whole thing is a big myth. What has come through, like since yesterday when I was preparing for this, is that Shakti, this power that we can call in, especially as women, has so much potential when we channel it directly, right? When we cultivate it on a regular basis. But first we have to know what we're working with. So this container that we're creating, this Shakti circle, is like as if we're calling in Shiva. So in Tantra, Shiva is the container. He holds space. He has that presence. Shiva is presence, is consciousness, right? And Shakti, she's dancing in that space. She has, her energy becomes contained in a certain way that then she can create, she can manifest, she can enjoy, she can, do all the amazing things that the goddess does. And what I realized is that the reason that women have been kind of, we could say, repressed, especially sexually, by all religions, is because there is a fear of this Shakti, because she is so powerful, so dynamic, and she gains her power when she connects with her pleasure, with her her juiciness, and that comes from connecting with sensuality and sexuality, right? Because the goddess, she is of nature, of earth, like she is here with us. Shakti is infusing everything. She's the life force that moves through us. She's in every atom. So before I go more into who is the goddess and how we can connect with her, I just want to share this point about why it's so important that we come together. Because we have been separated. And when Shakti is separated, her power is not as strong. So it's amazing that as women, we can come together in a circle and we can be our own Shiva. We can create our own container. So we can hold each other because we're bringing in that presence, right? We're going beyond kind of pettiness, witness, any kind of jealousy or competition or things like that. We are just uniting as sisters in unconditional love. And I think that you could say that the masculine or the patriarchal system kind of could feel unneeded. So what was there to do but except separate women so that they could be more needed, more desired in a way. So it's amazing that we have this potential to be penetrated by life. Like as women, we can draw in whatever it is we need. We can magnetize it. And when we share that with each other, it becomes even more and more abundant. So that is why I'm creating this Yogini Shakti sisterhood. So I just want, it's important to share with you, since this is our first official circle, although we've gathered before, so that we can create a new world that more demonstrates the feminine principles. So that is, in harmony with both the masculine and the feminine, which is so needed now. And all of us have been doing our work of, we're doing our spiritual path, we're creating things. But what I would love to see in this divine feminine awakening is for us to now what? How can we collaborate to bring our projects together, to really support each other, to share our abundance, share our ideas, and create community? Because that will be the building blocks for a new future that we can all feel good in and thrive in, and hopefully we can save the planet, which is, Mother Nature is the visual manifestation of Shakti herself. How do we activate our Shakti on a daily basis? And what are these principles of feminine spirituality that can help us to embody the goddess, invite her into our life, and get to know her? And it's, the feminine, she's fluid. She's cyclical. We're changeable. We have a moon cycle, right? So there isn't any rigidity here. So something might work for you and at some time, and another time it might not, or something might resonate with one sister and not with another. And that's why we have so much variety. We have so much possibility, right? To embody the goddess in so many different ways. And that's why there are so many different forms of her that we can connect with as well, because we have all of those varieties inside of us. The principle that I love about Tantra that has really given me so much peace is acceptance of the reality as it is, and honoring that and embracing that and loving that. And this is very feminine in a sense, right? Because it's bringing unconditional love to the self, but also to whatever is around, whatever we're experiencing. And that immediately spiritualizes our experience in life, because then we can learn lessons from whatever's happening. And we can use life as a teacher. In Tantra, life is our teacher. As women, we don't need to sit in a cave and meditate. We need to be, we have an active nature. Shakti, she's dynamic. She's a doer. So as much as stillness is there to balance that, also through life and through living, we can start to see how the goddess is moving things, and with this kind of gratitude, even for the challenges, because we know that we are already divinely perfect, so we don't have anything to prove. So that kind of leads to the next principle. So we have this acceptance and honoring of whatever is. And then that leads to self-love, where we have nothing to prove to others. I think this is the biggest conditioning that so many women face, that I kind of have just been seeing by people's comments. Women talk a lot about this, that there's this conditioning of, people pleasing, and they should do like this, and think this really goes to our mother's generation more than our own, this deep wound that we need to deplete ourselves to please others, or we need to give more than we can, we need to sacrifice. So this is the opposite of the way to embody the goddess. To embody the goddess and invite her in, first we have to fill up. We have to fill up so much that we're overflowing, that we're just able to share that. And when we're not, we're totally at peace with it. We're able to go into our cave once a month. And I think that's why women have kind of suppressed their menstrual cycles, rejected them, have issues with them, because they were expected, conditioned, taught to always be able to serve. And it's wonderful to be of service. And women, we have so much nature to be, loving and caring for others. But number one is you. is yourself and your daily routines that support your feminine nourishment. And actually, this full moon, it's in the nakshatra of Pusha, which is all about nourishment. So it's really a time for that even today. So we can reflect a bit on how can I more nourish myself. I mean, you can just sit with that. In which ways are, because there's many areas of our life, so in which area am I kind of neglecting my own needs, or or being like a taskmaster? I know for those of us who are, Belinda shaking her head, I knew you would think, because we have this nature of we're, perhaps overachievers, perfectionists, we have desire to do it all and be it all because we are it all. That's the thing. Like in our essence, we are the goddess. So naturally we want to manifest that out into the world, and that can lead us to pushing and forcing. But what the feminine does is she invites us to kind of like, I just kind of take a sit back, relax into the arms of your own Shiva, who is holding you, right? Shiva is also present inside of us. So in order to be fully in your feminine, you have to have a healthy masculine to hold you, because otherwise we'll keep putting that out there on the men or man in our life, even, or maybe we don't even have a man in our life, and then we feel incompetent to hold ourselves. Like, so that holding is what gives peace. So that balance, and I'll talk about that a little bit later. So, but the feminine way to exist, and this is something we have to actually train ourselves again, is softening. In that softening is the power. In that softening is the power. Because just like water is extremely powerful. You can see waterfalls and rivers, they have the ability to carve out their way, and we can do the same. We have to still keep doing our yoga practices, which, even though it can be understood to be somewhat of a masculine practice, when we bring the feminine into it, then it becomes complete. So I say this because through Hatha Yoga, which is also Kundalini Yoga, because when the Ida and Pingala become balanced, we are balancing Shiva and Shakti. We're balancing inside of us the masculine and feminine. So that is a really essential practice. But we can't only do that, right? We need to dance. We need to be flexible. We need to have fun. We need to enjoy. And, if some morning we don't feel like doing that, the feminine way doesn't force. So this is the difference between a male practitioner and a female practitioner. Men, they tend to see things as a conquest, like they're conquering, they're going to do it no matter what. I know I'm thinking of one tantric who's very strong in his practice, and he would rather like die than fail, this kind of warrior like. And as women, our power comes from self-love, from loving ourselves, and then we can be continuous. Because if we don't practice one day, or one day is like not so successful, goal oriented, we start to be totally fine with that. There is no self-criticism or judgment. So that's really important to bring to our spiritual practice. And combining that with our sensuality. So, okay, let's go into the juicy stuff. So once we're balanced, we have a good container. Like we're able to self-love, self-soothe, hold ourselves, be our own Shiva. Shakti, she needs to be activated on a daily basis. And, there are many ways to do that. I find the most important thing to do in the morning is do some things nice for your body, because we are embodied. So being sensual is the essence of being feminine, actually. And it doesn't necessarily mean being sexual, although it can lead to that. But first, opening up the senses and always making ourselves comfortable and giving ourselves that pleasure. And that's really a cornerstone of like self-love in general. In the morning, your spiritual routine should include, I say should as, kind of just my advice, sisterly advice, should include some beauty routine, because the feminine is beauty incarnate, right? Whatever makes us feel beautiful. So that means that we're connecting with this temple in some way. Like, it can be giving yourself a self massage, which I personally do daily before my shower, a facial in the morning, something, at least put on something that makes you feel nice. So coming from the outside in with this beauty also helps to activate the goddess inside. If we feel like we are not caring for the self, it's like the foundation of the house collapses from within, right? So caring for this body first thing. Then we can do our spiritual practices. But first we have to say, how am I today? And connecting with our feminine center. What do I need today? And paying attention to those things that come through first thing in the morning, those intuitive sparks. It's amazing how the intuition speaks loudly in the silence of the early morning. And for anyone who's missing the early morning, you're really missing out, because that time of day is magic. And that's when we can really hear ourselves. And sometimes we don't even need to do anything in the morning. We just need to sit and be with that and be with ourself. Yes, we can. You see, I have like puja items and altar, and I do chanting, and we should include some of these amazing technologies of connecting with different elements like flowers, and incense, and making our spiritual practice a celebration of life, of the senses, because we have all senses involved. Then we're seeing something beautiful, we're hearing something, we're smelling something, and we offer some this is a chiku for those of you who don't live in India, offering some food to the goddess, and then after you taste this, and it's like you feel like, oh, I'm tasting her nectar. So when we connect with the senses and bring them into our practice, not as something that we need to overcome because I'm going to sit, like a yogi and yogini and be really firm. When we bring those in, we bring in the feminine. So the feminine is the beauty that we surround ourselves with. So this body is our temple, number one. And then if you want to have an external temple and altar to represent the goddess in all her shapes and forms, then it will just amplify that. So we cultivate both ways, from within and from without. Right? So it's not only enough to do inner work, we have to also allow that to overflow and fill our environment with that, fill our life with that. And, how many of you dance on a regular basis? Everybody, kind of. Okay. Yeah, so this is the most powerful way to activate Shakti, as we know. And I think it's a metaphor for how we need to dance through our life. Do you remember, like, when you were a little girl, right? And you play dress up and you make believe and magic. All of these things we need to bring into our adult existence more and more. I know that some of you already are doing that, as we are so much on this feminine path.